Would you like to be more connected and informed about your community? If so, it's time to find out who's doing what around town with Moot Point. Moot Point is a local podcast that covers the issues and topics that are relevant to all residents in Albion, Maine. Moot Point is a production of The Moo at moo202.org. And now, here's the host of Moot Point, Brad Taylor.
Welcome to another episode of Moot Point. I'm Brad Taylor, and on today's episode, I'm going to be speaking with Roberta Morin and Elaine Staples from the Albion Public Library, and we're going to be talking about this year's edition of their book talk series called Let's Talk About It. Well, thank you so much, Roberta and Elaine, for joining me for today's Moot Point conversation. So you've got this thing that's starting at the library called Let's Talk About It. Explain, what is Let's Talk About It?
Let's Talk About It is a book group that is sponsored by the Maine Humanities Council in conjunction with the Maine State Library. And they offer many selections of topics, and they have arranged books that pertain to that topic to read and talk about. Maine Humanities supplies all the books for us to borrow, and we only have to account for the books and keep track of the time that I spend getting things in order, and any mileage, if I'm putting out posters, things like that, I keep track of that. But everything is free to the library, so there's no cost to us. We've been doing it for, as far as I can tell, about 8 years. Several topics, some pertaining only to Maine, and then we've broadened out to do some history, Civil War, American Revolution, Gilded Age. Each summer I kind of ask the people that participated last year in it to go online and go to the Maine Humanities Council website and scan through all of the types of books that they're offering us, the topics, and give me 2 or 3 that they'd like to look at. And I kind of just tally it up and see which ones get the most votes, and those are the ones we apply for.
Okay.
So,
now, does the Maine Humanities Council, what is their agenda, if you will, or their mission, maybe is a better word?
oh gee, I'm not quite sure. I know they have a variety of programs. Some are speakers that will come to your library or town center or whatever and talk about different topics. There must be 20 or 25 different speakers, and they have 2 or 3 topics they'll talk about. They do the Let's Talk About It. I think they go into the schools and supply Let's Talk About It books to small book groups in schools and things like that. And a lot more, but I concentrate on this, so I haven't made myself familiar with it.
I was just wondering if there were certain kinds of topics that were outside of their mission, so therefore they just never go there, or whether they have certain kind of topics that they always go to because of their mission. I was just curious about that.
I couldn't tell you that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And they also provide the facilitator.
Yes, that's true.
And they're the ones that choose the facilitator to come to with the different topics. That's why we're kind of starting a little late this year. Usually we start in January, but they didn't have a facilitator for the subject that we chose this year.
Oh, okay.
And facilitators are usually educators. We've had some from Hassan College come down and facilitate. We've had a graduate student one year that was a facilitator on that subject, and so they're the ones that bring the facilitators on board. We don't just get together, read the book, and just go from there. We do have somebody to facilitate the programs.
Well, that makes for an interesting thought or question that I have, which is what makes the facilitator uniquely qualified for the topic that you're dealing with?
Usually it's a topic that they've either studied or have some knowledge or some passion for. Last year when we did The Gilded Age, our facilitator wrote the last book that we studied, and he'd written a book on the Golden Age of Poland Springs.
You said the last book, so then that raises the question, how many books do you go through for a topic?
We do one a month, and it might be from January to May. Since we're starting late, we'll be doing 4 this year.
Okay.
Yeah, February to May.
So it's not, it's a matter of you read an entire book, and then you join the group, and then you have a discussion on that specific book.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, good. Now, what if somebody has no advanced education? You know, they barely made it through high school, no college. Will somebody like that feel intimidated if they come to this group? I mean, how demanding is this group academically, intellectually?
You don't have to have any qualifications, just interest in books and like to discuss what you've read.
Good. So if a person just is interested in learning, they'll have an opportunity to learn. Now, do the participants, are they free to ask questions? When you have one of your sessions, is the moderator doing more lecture, or is he asking people questions to find out how people interacted with the book?
He'll start with questions, ask different people what they thought about something, but often one of the participants will ask a question and it goes from there too. It depends on the replies.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you how long the series lasted in terms of weeks or months, but you said that you're doing 4 books and it's 1 book a month, so therefore it's going to last for 4 months.
For 4 months.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how long, when you actually come together for a session, how long does a Let's Talk About It session last?
About an hour and a half to 2 hours.
We start at 6, and we usually try to get done by 8, but sometimes you really get into some of these books and some of the discussions, and you want to stay.
I can understand how that would be. Well, let's just take a break right here, and we'll be back in just a moment. And when we come back, I'll find out from Roberta and Elaine what the actual topic is going to be for this year's Let's Talk About It.
Here at the Moo, we believe that community is all about making connections, and the best connections happen one event at a time. That's why we've started a community calendar on our website, moo202.org. Our goal is to get every event by every community group listed on our calendar. Events for children, adults, even town business. Now, when that happens, the Moo Community Calendar will serve as a central billboard for the entire town of Albion. Now, here's a special invitation just for you. We need your help getting everybody in Albion on board with the Moo Community Calendar. So, if you know somebody who is active organizing local events, tell them to send their information to the Moo. In fact, we have a handy form that's quick and easy to fill out right on our website, moo202.org. That address again, moo202.org.
And we're back. I have Roberta Morin and Elaine Staples from the Albion Public Library. We're talking about this year's Let's Talk About It book series. And what I'd like to find out now is the specific topic, and maybe if you have book titles for this year's topic.
Yes, the topic is, the title of the series is called Going to See, A Variety of Voices. And we'll start off next week by reading a 10th century poem called The Seafarer. I'm not very good at poetry. So
well, let's instead of saying next week, why don't we give the date of when it's going to start? Because when this gets posted and when it starts may be 2 different things.
February 14th,
February
next
14th,
Wednesday,
which
at
is coming
6
up on
o'clock
Wednesday.
at the library.
Wednesday, 6 o'clock at the library, February 14th. So this isn't a romantic Let's Talk About It series.
No, it is not.
Even though it's going on Valentine's Day.
And after the discussion on the 10th century poem, we'll talk about Joseph Conrad's, I don't know that it's a book, it's a short story called Youth. And it's about going to sea back in the,
I don't know.
Well, when sails and wooden ships were
So that could
in
be
vogue.
18th century maybe?
I would guess.
Early 19th century?
It's a young man who is talking with a group of friends in a pub in England, and he's telling about a voyage that he went on from England to Bangkok and everything that happened in between. And it's a very short story. It's probably 40 pages. I thought, very easy reading,
Oh, yes.
very good reading. And there's a little humor in it, but I thought it was humorous in places. But that's the length of it. And we'll spend 2 hours on talking about these two subjects.
So you ladies confess that you're ahead of everybody on this?
No. We all got the books. You all get the book before the meeting on the book. So we've had the books for a couple of weeks, 2 or 3 weeks, and everybody should have read the book and the short poem before we come to the meeting on the 14th. On the 14th, we'll turn those 2 books in, and we'll get the next book, and we'll have a month to read that book before we come back together and talk about it.
Now, you have a limit on the number of people who can participate, right?
Yes, I usually ask for about 15 books
Okay.
and or sets of books because we don't have that much space in the library.
So basically, if somebody wants to participate in the February 14th session, they're going to want to, as soon as possible, go and pick up the book for that session.
That's right.
Okay. I didn't realize that people needed to get their reading done before the first session. So we're a little bit behind here on the podcast.
They're easy reads. They can be done in an afternoon, both of them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure. Now, since this topic is about going to sea, why might this topic be interesting to people here in Albion?
Well, I think we have a lot of people who enjoy the water in the state of Maine. A lot of sailors, a lot of people that just enjoy it for the afternoon or something. A lot of people that go down to the coast and take rides on the various kinds of boats that are available. Maine's kind of been a seafaring state for a long time.
Okay. Now, you said that the facilitator is somebody who has some sort of experience. Do you know anything about this year's facilitator?
Yes, his name is Matthew Nye, and he's on the faculty at Unity College up in Unity as an assistant professor of environmental writing. And he's primarily teaches writing, literature, and communications classes. He has a background in English and creative writing, and he has a PhD from the University of Georgia and his master's from the University of Utah. And as an undergraduate, he majored in English and philosophy at Dartmouth. So coming to Unity, he says, is a reason of sorts to New England.
Okay. So his background is what in relation to the sea?
He's a teacher, literature teacher.
Okay.
He has written a novel. I don't know he doesn't say what it's about, but you don't necessarily have to be. The books that are chosen a lot of them are historical books. I wanted to read this series for one reason, because there's a couple of books on the list that I had never read and thought it would be great to read them and talk about them with other people.
Now, do you find people coming to this group that you've never seen before?
Yes, at times.
at times?
Why, yeah, a couple of years ago, we were starting our first meeting, and a gentleman walked in off the street and wanted to join us. So
So now what if somebody learns about this maybe, the day of or the day before, and they don't have a chance to read this first book? Should they just stay away, or
No.
come anyway.
come anyway?
Come anyway.
You can hear the discussion, read the book later if you want to,
Yep.
Right.
and then get the next book so you're not
Exactly.
behind.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there are a number of ways that different people can participate. Anything we haven't covered that you want to make sure that people know
Well,
about this series?
I can give you the names of the other books we'll be reading.
Okay.
Captain's Courageous by Kipling. One called The Log of the Skipper's Wife. I think I've read that myself at one time or another, about the wife of the skipper on the ship and her experiences. And Hemingway's The Old Man in the Sea.
Oh,
So
I've even read that one. You hit on something I know. Very good. So it's been a great conversation. I want to thank both of you, Roberta Morin and Elaine Staples, for joining me and talking about what the library is doing right now. Thank you.
Thank you.
I've been talking with Roberta Morin and Elaine Staples from the Albion Public Library about their book talk series called Let's Talk About It. And it's going to be starting on Wednesday, February 14th at 6 p.m. If you haven't gotten your book yet for the first series, then stop by the library and pick it up as soon as possible. If you're not able to do that, that's okay. Just attend the book talk, and then you can get the book for the next month's conversation. It's all going to be happening at the Public Library on Wednesday, February 14th at 6 p.m.
You've been listening to Moot Point. Please take a moment to like us on Facebook, and we'll let you know when we have our next community conversation with someone who's doing something interesting here in Albion. Moot Point is a production of The Moo, home of the Albion Community Calendar and the Moo Country Music Stream at moo202.org.